And with that, I'd like to call the regular meeting of Township Council for the purpose of a public hearing to order for Monday, January 13th. And of course, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular, our valued relationships with the Katzie, Kwantlen, Matsqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. Mr. Richardson, the preamble.
A public hearing is a statutory requirement under Section 464 of the Local Government Act and must be held before third reading of a community plan, land use contract amendment bylaw, heritage designation bylaw, or heritage revitalization agreement bylaw. During a public hearing, council acts in a quasi-judicial role for the purpose of allowing persons who believe their interest in property is affected by a bylaw, permit, or other matter to make representations to council, either orally, by written submission, or to add comments to or elaborate upon correspondence that may have already been presented to council concerning the bylaws. It is important to note that council is not able to receive any additional information on the bylaws following the public hearing as dictated by case law. The hearing procedure involves an explanation from the Community Development Division on the purpose of the proposed bylaws and to hear from individuals regarding the bylaws. In order to ensure that all interested parties have a reasonable opportunity to be heard, speakers are requested to keep representations as brief and succinct as possible and no longer than 5 minutes in duration, excluding the time required for questions from council. Speakers will be asked to state their name, neighborhood, and city for the record. And if referring to prepared remarks, to submit copies of these to the township clerk. Decorum must be always maintained. This includes refraining from applause, booing, or heckling. To assist with large numbers of speakers, individuals must advise the township clerk and sign the speakers list prior to the commencement of the public hearing. The names on the speakers list will be read out during the hearing. Individuals who have already addressed council and wish to add further submissions will wait until the people that have not yet addressed council have had an opportunity to speak. All submissions and speaker lists are considered part of the public record. Council members should not express their views nor debate the bylaws. However, they may question speakers to clarify particular points in their submissions. Council may consider third reading or third reading and final adoption at this meeting or at its next regular meeting. Thank you.
Great. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda items, please? Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, call the question on A1. That carries unanimously. Mr. Richardson, item B1.
Thank you, Worship. The subject Walnut Grove Community Plan and Walnut Grove Redwoods Neighborhood Plan Amendment, rezoning and development permit applications pertain to proposed development consisting of 12 townhouse units at 21588 96 Avenue. The 0.46 acre site is designated neighborhood commercial in the Walnut Grove Community Plan and Walnut Grove Redwoods Neighborhood Plan. This photo depicts a site located at the southwest corner of 96 Avenue and 216th Street. Proposed Walnut Grove Community Plan and Walnut Grove Redwoods Neighborhood Plan Amendment Bylaw 6069 and associated resolution designates the site high-density residential in the Walnut Grove Community Plan and comprehensive residential development in the Walnut Grove Redwoods Neighborhood Plan. Proposed rezoning bylaw 6070 amends the neighborhood commercial C4 zoning to comprehensive development zone 209 to accommodate the proposal. This slide indicates the proposed site plan with right-in, right-out access from 216th Street. And the next series of slides are renderings, elevations, and landscape plan is indicated in development permit 101402. Walnut Grove Community Plan and Walnut Grove Redwoods Neighborhood Plan Amendment and rezoning bylaw 6069 and 6070 are subject to 7 conditions, with development permit 101402 subject to 8 conditions listed on page 8 of council's agenda. Your worship, a total of 127 notices were mailed out, 2 written submissions have been received, and there's 1 individual note on the speakers list. Travis Finlayson, your worship.
Okay, great. Travis Finlayson is here. Please come forward. Yep. If you could just state your name and just generally where you live, and please go ahead.
So my name is Travis Finlayson. I live in the Walnut Grove community in the pictured area there within Langley. I guess I just have 3 quick comments, things to debate. 1 would be access, 2 would be parking, and 3 would be a case study. Number 1 would be access off of 216th. There is a solid median. So there would be no in-out access if you were heading northbound on 216th. So then that begs the question as to if people are trying to enter a unit like that, how would they safely do that? Also, if they're leaving that unit and wanting to head, I guess, north on 216th to enter it onto 96th, how are they going to access that? The likelihood would be that they would go down 95A and pop a UE at 215B and come back out and then hang a left and a left or a right onto 96th. There's already a multitude of vehicles that park on 95A that are from 9548, the townhouse complex across the street. They park there and then jaywalk across 216th. If you're adding 12 units, which would propose give or take 20 to 30 vehicles, you need parking for those. As it is, again, there's already townhouse people that park on 95A, and you're gonna add more units of vehicles. And then with that too, so then you're going to increase your street parking on 95A if you don't have sufficient parking within the complex. And then you have a number of kids that play on that street. The first 7 houses pictured, I believe 6 of them have young families. I know my kids are one of them. They play basketball out front all the time and are constantly having to stop for vehicles that simply drive in, do a U-turn, and drive back out. So that traffic would only increase with what's proposed there. And then, yeah, my 3rd quick comment would be there's another property that is somewhat similar on the southwest corner of 96th and 208th. If you look at the geosource map, that property is about twice the size of the one in question here. And that property has 4 units built on it. So it has 1/3 of the amount on double the land size. It also has access from 208th with a broken median because of the fire hall across the street. So they can safely access off of 208th if they're heading north. So yeah, just wanted to throw those out for discussion and consideration. But that would be my concern with adding that many units in that small of an area.
Okay, I have a question from council. Just go on. There's the Councilor Richter.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Finlayson, for coming. You mentioned that there's townhouse parking that's occurring right now on 95A.
Yes.
Is this the complex to the west or to the east?
To the east, the 9584, there's, I don't know how many units exactly. I'm going to say probably 15 or so. They all have double garages. Some of them have driveways that they can actually park their vehicles on.
Yeah.
Some of them do not have long enough driveways to park vehicles on. And those people park on 95A and then they jaywalk across 216th.
Okay.
So tonight when I left my house, there was 9 vehicles parked between 216th and 215B.
215B, well, that's a very small distance. Now, you mentioned the U-turns. How often does that happen and in what time frames? Like what time periods? Is it mostly in the morning and when people are coming home from work?
I would say probably the coming home from work is what we notice the most because that's when I would be outside with my kids playing, would be after work. And I would say, I mean, it's hard to put an exact number on it, but it would happen multiple times. Like if I'm out playing for an hour, hour and a half playing basketball, we would probably see it 2 to 3 times at least.
Okay.
And whether that's vehicles that are just turning around to leave the street again, or some of them are vehicles that are turning around to park on the south side of 95A so that they can then again walk over to the townhouse.
Okay. And the complex itself that's being proposed here how much parking per unit do you think it should be having? I'm assuming if they've got
I would
a
say
garage, they should have 2 spots.
most families probably have 2 vehicles. So if you're
Yeah.
adding 12 units, give or take 24 vehicles. Now, looking at townhouses like the one across the street, I would say maybe 50% actually park in their garage, and 50% probably fill it with stuff
Okay,
and park elsewhere.
all right. So there's no problem with tenants then? Or there could be a problem with,
I wouldn't know who rents out what. Yeah.
okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Great, thank you for your submission. Any other speakers for item B1? And then for a second time, are there any other submissions from the public on item B1? Then for a third and final time, are there any other submissions from the public on item B1? Yeah, please come forward.
My name's Conrad Brewers. I live right across the street, right across 216th from the proposed development. And I didn't see any visitors parking in the plans on this one. Maybe I missed it, but is that something that's being proposed here, or?
Yeah, visitor parking is required for a certain portion. The public hearing format, you just make your submissions to us, but that is something that council will now consider in its deliberations.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there any other submissions from the public on item B1? Please come forward, yeah. Oh, sir, can you come back? There's a late question from council. Please come forward. Yep, go ahead, Councilor Martins.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming. You indicated you live across the street.
Yep.
So you're in are you in the townhouse complex?
Yep,
Okay.
9590.
Okay, yeah. Now, do you and your neighbors have parking on 96th? Is that still available for your complex, or I'm just hearing about people having to park?
We don't park on 96. That's mostly the next development, Redwood Bridge. And there's very limited parking on 96. 216th is used by some of the people in our complex, and also in 9584, right? So I wasn't aware that people from those complexes were parking on 95A as well. Yeah, no, it's just that, we have visitor parking in our complex. We've got 5 parking spaces. I know Belmont, 9584, they've got visitors parking in theirs. But I didn't see any in the plans for the proposed development.
Okay.
So that was my only comment, right?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I appreciate you
Okay.
coming back and
Thank you.
answering that.
Yeah, I have another question now. Councilor Richter, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, just a follow-up question, Mr. Brewer. So the 5 parking spaces that your complex has, is it enough to handle the visitor parking need that your complex has?
So between the 5 parking spaces that we have and the driveways that some places, and again, they vary in size. In some cases, they're usable. In some cases, they're not. But between those, we've been able to make it work. The complex is 12 years old now.
Yeah,
So we're kind of used to it.
okay. All right, so, and you've got how many units in your complex? Did you say
There are 13 units in ours.
13 units, and you've got 5 parking spaces.
Mhm.
13.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much. So please come forward.
Hi there. My name is Harvinder Baines, and I would be directly affected by this development because my backyard is right there. So I'm located in the cul-de-sac on 215B Avenue. So I had some questions regarding, I know many people have already mentioned the parking situation, which I also agree with. There's many people from the townhouse complexes across the street that are already parking on 95A. The cul-de-sac that I live in, most of the neighbors have their front parking blocked off by, let's say, basketball hoops, just so that, other people won't be parking there. So that's still a concern for the parking. The traffic congestion on 96 and 216, the infrastructure problem, there's no traffic lights there. So housing 12 townhouses, high density versus a residential 2 or 3 houses in that lot. And then so the high traffic, there's lots of high traffic obviously during summer months as well because of the Fort Langley historical tourism. So I guess my questions are, what's going to happen with that intersection in terms of traffic lights? Like, how are these 12 townhomes, let's say, I don't know how many people are going to be living there, coming in and out of that corner, onto 96 or onto 216 when there's already like high traffic there?
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks. And I also sent an email, so I don't know if that will be looked at.
The council will have those, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any other submissions from the public on item B1? For a second time, are there any other submissions from the public on item B1? Then for a third time, are there any other submissions from the public on item B1? So that will close the public portion of the public hearing. Does the proponent wish to come forward and make a submission? Okay, please come forward.
Your Worship and the Council, thank you for the opportunity for us to speak. I'm the architect on the project, Rocher Dahl from Architecture Panel in White Rock, British Columbia. And just a couple simple points that I like to put in front of the Council here. The property is zoned C4 and OCP is neighborhood commercial. And with the controls on C4, with the 40% coverage and the height permitted, it would have been a very significantly higher intensity development had the developer gone in for a neighborhood commercial as he originally set out to do. However, in consideration of the residential quality of the neighborhood and the sensitive context involved here, along with the discussions with the staff, he decided to go with, which is kind of a downsizing, downgrading a little bit of the potential to the townhouse development. And in the townhouse development, we followed everything to the T. There are 24 spots available for parking in the garages and 2 visitor spots available as recommended by the zoning bylaw. That is all we could do. We've gone ahead and created ample landscape buffers, retained the mature trees between this and development to the west, and gone ahead and provided everything that could be done. There's also point to be considered that a remarkably large amount of road dedication is happening towards the east on the 216th, which is a variable setbacks on that area as well. So overall, we feel the development is going to contextually enhance the quality of that neighborhood rather than going ahead with something which was neighborhood commercial, which could add a lot more traffic and activity to the setting. Thank you so much.
All right, I have a question from Council. Councilor Richter?
Yeah, so you've got 12 units there on
Yes.
0.46 of an acre, so less than half an acre, and 2 visitor spots.
Yeah.
Can you increase the number of visitor spots?
This is kind of, we've used every square inch possible to give, to provide and enhance the development to meet with the zoning bylaw, and zoning bylaw requires to in this situation. The public amenity also was a bit of a challenge. We kind of squeezed and provided that within the requisite numbers. So there, I'm afraid there isn't a possibility of adding more spots. We would have loved to do it if there were.
Okay. Yeah, but you could have maybe built one less unit and had more parking, right?
I guess eventually in today's day and age with the economic situation, that is what made it viable. We tried really hard in making as less as possible in terms of providing all the facilities that were required to be provided in the zoning. So,
Okay.
thank you.
No, I'm not done yet.
Sorry.
Second question that I had is it'll obviously be right in, right out only. Okay, is that gonna be a problem from your perspective?
You mean right in, right out?
Yeah, because if you can't turn left
Yeah, I
on
think
216th Street,
I think we have to get used to this situation of higher density, and everyone, including the province, is an advocate for higher density. And in this situation, I guess the people living in have to sign up for that, right in, right out. I don't see a problem. Lots of places, residential neighborhoods do have constraints. And it's not such a big issue, I would say, with the relaxed and sprawling setting of the area. It's not a high intensity development like closer to downtown, where turning etc. would be an issue. We feel that this is reasonably, I guess, relaxed for these people to do a right and right out.
okay, but that is obviously gonna lead to continued U-turns down on 95A Avenue.
Not necessarily
Not safe for those residents.
Yeah, not necessarily 95A, because I guess majority of the activity or the transit we feel is going to happen going south rather than going north, the way it is situated. So I guess there shouldn't be so much of a problem.
Okay, and, well, except the school's down south further, right? So if they're coming north on 216th
Yeah.
to turn back in
That's
after
right.
driving their kids to school.
It can't be ignored.
It's gonna be difficult.
Yeah.
And the last thing, will you have covenants on garage use?
Sorry.
Covenants on garage use, that the garages must be used for parking and not for storage?
I don't know if a covenant is a mechanism that can be enforced or has been done, but we are big advocates that they should be used rather than used for storage. I'm not an expert to comment whether that covenant can be enforced or placed, but yeah, we would encourage the developer to kind of pursue any measures that he can within his capacity to see if the garages are to be used.
Okay, but are these gonna be fee simple homes, or are they going to be strata?
Strata.
Okay, so
Strata.
could the strata not enforce a covenant?
They are.
So I'm going to answer that question.
Sure.
It's a condition of your development.
Okay.
If it's to proceed to council, it's a condition of the approval
Okay.
that a covenant will be registered, that the garages are for the purposes of parking vehicles,
Sure.
no other purpose.
Sure. Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Councilor Victor? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so glad you jumped in, Mr. Mayor. Thank you
Well,
for
you
that.
may as well answer the question, right, Councilor Victor? Go ahead.
Thank you for that clarification. So if the strata can put a covenant in place, the strata would have to enforce it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's not correct, but go ahead, please. If you have other questions, Councilor Victor, that's also not correct.
Come
But,
on, Mr. Mayor, stop with the bullying already.
Bullying is just correcting the fact that it's not correct. The covenants are to the benefit of the Township of Langley, enforced by the Township of Langley.
Thank you for taking the
Thank
time
you.
to speak
Yeah,
with us
great,
today.
thank you. It's not bullying to provide accurate information, Councilor Victor. Councilor Kuntz, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question for you. So if you're going north and you're wanting to get into the complex, will there be a lane that is going to get you back into the complex?
If you're going north,
If you're heading north and you
Yeah.
want to get back home,
yeah.
how do you get back into if there's a median there?
Yeah, I guess you'll have to kind of go around and find a safe way of turning to get into the place. There is no lane that is being proposed at this time.
So you're going to have to, like, that might be a problem getting home.
It's a matter of a situation where it is. One has to turn around, make a safe location where a turn can be made and come back.
So you would have to do that on 96 Avenue.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of a problem, because that's a very busy road, I think. But anyway, I
Yeah,
mean, I
okay.
guess that's just
Yeah.
something to
Yeah.
think about. Thank you.
Okay, thank
No,
you.
there's another couple, I
sure.
had a similar question, so I'll follow up on that now.
Sure.
If someone is traveling north
Yeah.
and needs to turn left or to access the subject property, you did say that they would have to find a safe route to do that. What would you suggest?
Just go either west or east and find a location where could be a safe location to turn around. If one is going north, that is the only option. For example, there are so many other neighborhood commercial complexes where direct access is not available and one has to go around and come. There are examples on Glover Road, a number of other places where people do it. So I guess one has to go around and find a location where it is safe to turn around and come back.
Councilor Martins?
Thank you. So I just want to be clear on this. The only access in and out of that complex is off of 216?
Exactly.
There is nothing off of 96?
No, no.
Okay. So I'm just thinking about when you're saying a safe place to turn around. If you're to go west on 96, short of doing a U-turn on a very major busy road, there's not a turning point for quite some time unless we're talking about the residences, which I think are more agricultural on the north side there. It's several blocks down before you get to another street. And to go east, it's the same thing unless you're going to start going into those townhouse complexes to try and turn around and then trying to come out again left onto 96. It's a very busy road. So it isn't really super accessible, is my concern. And just knowing the use of this neighborhood, as I do, everything is to the south. That's where the retail, the commercial center is for Walnut Grove. That's where the school is, that's where the parks are. So it is a concern. So I'm just trying to understand if you have any practical suggestions. I know you're saying go east or west and find somewhere. Could you be a little more specific? Like,
I just have a question to throw back that if hypothetically, if this was a neighborhood commercial as in the plan, would the situation be any different? Where the traffic would be of a higher volume and intensity and numbers?
that's a completely different use of the land.
Yeah, I mean, I might respond to that if this was neighborhood commercial as envisioned by the plan, the type of business that would be located there would be a business specific to that flow of traffic.
But C4 allows for a 40% and 9-meter building, and given today's economic climate, any developer would try to maximize it. And if they try to maximize it, it would be equal or larger square footage with much, much, much larger of numbers of volumes of cars, and we would be faced with a similar issue. So I think this is actually making it closer to acceptability than given a situation of that nature where a C4 zoning in a neighborhood commercial with a 20,000, 24,000 square feet of area and underground parkade and having a situation of a much higher number of cars would be absorbed, right? So we feel that this is definitely one of the better and more acceptable uses of the land than what is proposed or envisaged by the plan.
Hey, Councilor Martins, did you have any more? No? Councilor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and thanks for taking the time. I was curious if there was any attempt or interest in trying to buy out the neighbors to the south. If I remember correctly, I believe I saw a for sale sign up at some point. Which would have helped.
I'd like the developer to talk to that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Malkeet and I'm one of the owner. I did talk to one of the owners. It was either 21585 or 21597, and the expectation was a bit high, and it didn't make sense on our behalf. So it could have been better if they were all one. I mean, we could have probably have had two more properties that could have resolved any issue if it was in the future arising. So, but at the end of the day, we have to look at the bottom line too, and the numbers we were thrown at didn't make sense to us. So we decided to just stick with the initial plan, and that was it. So we never tried to go to the back properties because we put the sign up like probably more than a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. So everyone was aware that we are proceeding with this, and we never heard from anybody because when we put the sign up, we were there for almost a day or so. I gave away a bunch of my cards too, but just one person tried, and the number was very high. So we basically, you can say we tried, but we failed to put them on the same page.
I appreciate that. And going to the conversation that was just had about whether or not the property would be used for commercial or residential uses.
Yeah.
Over on 208th and 96, where you do have the commercial building, it's old, it's grandfathered, I'm sure. They do have access off of 96th. In conversations with staff, if that came up about potentially going towards commercial, would you have been able to have access off of 96th Avenue as opposed to just 216th?
Because we came up with the plan initially to put, because this is a C zone, so we had no idea what else we can do. So we came up with this commercial site plan, and we approached the city, and we were suggested by the city that it will be better if we blend in with the current zone up in current the situation. Because on the east we have townhomes, and the west we have homes. So they ask us to blend in with the current existence, rather than creating a nuisance. Because when we say commercial, everyone is invited there. So, I mean, it brings traffic day and night. You cannot say, like, if we open up a 24-hour convenience store, so that is inviting everybody, whoever is coming from wherever. So they said, we would rather like to see, some residential, and that was the only option we had. So we tried to comply with each and every step they asked. And this will bring a nice little neighborhood to the area. And we provided 24 parkings and 2 extra visitor parkings. And this is a nice layout which the planning department proposed us. Like, this is what it will fit in, and that's what we tried. We try to accommodate everything whichever they ask us.
Good, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Another question from Council. Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, I'm looking at this situation with the right in and right out, and I look at it from an emergency service point of view, and I don't see a viable way that I've heard, and maybe correct me, on approaching this in a safe manner. This intersection is a very, very problematic to me, and this right in, right out only. I see all kinds of silly alternatives to people driving to get into this thing. So, yeah, I haven't heard, and please correct me if you've got a better idea that I haven't heard yet. How are you going to approach this right in and right out? It sounds pretty dangerous to me from a collision point of view.
First of all, this is not a neighborhood where it's like, downtown Vancouver. And secondly, I mean, city has to put, some efforts too. I mean, if this is becoming a very busy intersection, I don't think it is one of the busiest intersections as we speak. But if it becomes busy, I mean, we give away land on east side of the property that is on 216, and also we give away land on 96th Avenue. I mean, if in the future you think it is becoming too much, maybe you can add a traffic light. That's probably another solution in the future. But as far as we know, I mean, it's just 12 units, and I don't know if it's going to cause any headache for the neighborhood, and we try to, accommodate whatever we had, and we complied with all the bylaws and setbacks and everything.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything that I want to hear. Thanks.
Do you have any other clarifications on emergency service access, maybe from the architect? This must have been considered at some point, maybe, or we could also leave it for council to ask questions of our staff. But
No worries, yeah. The biggest thing, yes, there is definitely a downside of right in, right out, and it would have been great if there another access available. However, a large periphery of the site is exposed to the flanking roads, both 96 and 216th, And as far as servicing and emergency access, whether it is fire or medical ambulances, etc., there seems to be a very porous and accessible way of approaching all the dwelling units. And we don't see there's going to be a problem at all, unlike a lot of other developments where the frontages are limited and emergency transponders have a tough time reaching the situation. In this case, I think this is as easy, flexible as it can be. And there's a plaza to the that we've proposed to the north in the middle. Obviously, it's very close to intersection, so I don't think access to the site can be done because the road goes straight. But an emergency access can definitely be proposed or envisaged from 96th in that location with the removable bollards and whatnot. If that is a possibility, I don't know. Engineering has to look at that because there's a boulevard happening there as well. But yeah, this is a well exposed site with a lot of frontages, and yeah, emergency is not going to be a problem in our consideration.
All right, I see I have no other questions from council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll close the public hearing for item B1. Does any member of council wish to move consideration of third reading? Not seeing that. Mr. Richardson, item B2, please. Just for members of the public, the item B1 will be considered at the next meeting of council. Okay, Mr. Richardson, please
Thank you,
go ahead.
Worship. The subject Central Gordon Estate Neighborhood Plan Amendment and rezoning applications pertain to a proposed development consisting of 23 townhouse units at 7065 204 Street. The 1 acre site is designated multifamily in the Willoughby Community Plan, and townhouse B in Green Lake in the Central Gordon Estate Neighborhood Plan. This air photo depicts a site located on the west side of 204 Street, south of 71A Avenue. Proposed Central Gordon Estate Neighborhood Plan Amendment Bylaw 6062 proposes to increase the permitted density from 15 to 23 units per acre. Rezoning Bylaw 6063 rezones the subject site from suburban residential SR2 to comprehensive development zone 210 to accommodate the proposal. This slide indicates the proposed site plan with vehicular access to the site from 204 Street. Staff recommends support of the subject Central Gordon Estate Neighborhood Plan Amendment Bylaw 6062 and rezoning Bylaw 6063. Subject to 9 conditions listed on page 8 of council's agenda. Your worship, a total of 41 notices were mailed out. No written submissions have been received, and we have no individuals on the speakers list.
Are there any submissions from the public on item B2? For a second time, are there any submissions from the public on item B2? And for a third and final time, are there any submissions from the public on item B2? That'll close the public portion of the public hearing. Is there a proponent present wish to make a submission? Please come forward. Yeah.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name's Manveer Tagger from Common Ground Consulting. We're the agent for the developer on this project. The amendment is just to do with the density. The form and context of the proposal is consistent with the Central Gordon plan. And we were open to any concerns or questions council may have about the proposal. But I just wanted to clarify that the reason an amendment is required here is just due to the Central Gordon designation being for 15 UPA and our proposal being for 23.
All right. I see no questions from council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That, I'll close the public hearing for item B2. Does anybody wish to move consideration of third reading? Moved by Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Call the question on consideration of third reading of B2. That carries unanimously. Does anybody wish to move the recommendation third reading? Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on B2? Seeing none, call the question on B2. That carries unanimously. Mr. Richardson, item B3.
Thank you, Worship. The subject Willoughby Community Plan and Latimer Neighborhood Plan amendments and rezoning applications pertain to a proposed residential development consisting of approximately 245 apartment units and 4,876 square feet of commercial space at 8146 200 Street. The 2.3 acre site is designated multifamily in the Willoughby Community Plan. And low-density apartment, row house, townhouse, and townhouse live-work in the latter neighborhood plan. This air photo depicts a site located on the east side of 200th Street, south of 82nd Avenue. Proposed Willoughby Community Plan and Lattimore Neighborhood Plan Amendment Bylaw 6086 amends the Willoughby Community Plan by designating the eastern portion of the site high-density mixed use and applying the accompanying development permit Area D mixed-use guidelines, and amends the Lattimore Neighborhood Plan by increasing the density from a 1.4 floor space ratio on the western portion of the site and 22 units per acre on the eastern portion of the site to an overall 2.5 floor space ratio, replacing the row house, townhouse, and live-work townhouse designations on the eastern portion of the site with the high-density mixed-use designation, and increasing the building height from 4 to 6 stories on the western portion of the site and from 3 stories to 6 stories on the eastern portion of the site. Proposed rezoning bylaw 6087 amends the existing suburban residential SR2 zoning to comprehensive development 211 to accommodate the proposal. Willoughby Community Plan and Lattimore Neighborhood Plan Amendment Bylaw 6086 and rezoning bylaw 6087 are subject to 10 conditions listed on page 9 of Council's agenda. Your worship, a total of 1,305 notices were mailed out, 5 written submissions have been received, and there is 1 individual noted on the speakers list. Raj Singh, your worship.
Great. So I've got 2 speakers on this one. So we'll start with Raj Singh. Is Raj Singh present? Please come forward. And then we have a second speaker, Meena Shimshiti. Great. So we'll come to you after that. Great. Mr. Singh, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Raj Singh, and I live in Langley, the Willoughby area. I'm here to express my support for the proposed development application. Sorry. This project is a significant opportunity for our community as it will bring much needed affordable housing to a desirable neighborhood. Affordable housing is a critical issue that affects many residents. By increasing the supply of affordable homes, we're ensuring that more families have the access to stable housing. This development will help alleviate the housing shortage and provide opportunities for residents to live in a neighborhood that offers excellent amenities, schools, and a sense of community. Speaking from personal experience, I know a few friends and families who have not had luck finding a home, unlike myself, in this neighborhood due to pricing constraints and supply issues. I hope that more developments like this will provide an opportunity for families to live in this wonderful neighborhood. I believe supporting this application, we are taking a crucial step towards ensuring that our neighborhood remains accessible and welcoming to all. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. And the next speaker, Meena Shimshiti. Did I guess that correctly?
Yeah, it's XH is pronounced like a J in Eastern Europe, so it's
Okay.
Jamshidi. Thank you so much. My name is Meena Jamshidi. I live in the Yorkson area. It's very important for me. I'm almost 39 weeks pregnant to be here. I would normally be in bed with my little one. I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here in front of you to express how much I support for this to be some. I am a mother. I'm going to be a mother of 2. And I come before you as a member of this community, as an expectant mother. As you know, the journey into parenthood is filled with joy, excitement, and a fair share of worries. One of the most pressing concerns for many parents, including myself, is that I can't find any daycare for my little one. I think it's been since September 2023 that she's been on a wait list, so it feels really good knowing that we're gonna have an opportunity. It's why I strongly support this proposal, and I urge everyone here to recognize the vital role a daycare plays in our lives and to support this proposal. Let us invest in a high-quality daycare centers and ensure that they are accessible to all families. By doing so, we are creating a stronger, more resilient, and more prosperous community. I can't explain how I had to write this down because I didn't want to become emotional. It's been so hard for me to find anything that I could enroll my daughter. Now that I'm having one more coming, it's stressful, and knowing that there will be daycare available in such a close area is very important to me personally. So it's why we are here at this time to support this proposal.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Are there any other submissions from the public on item B3? For a second time, are there any other submissions from the public on item B3? And then for a third and final time, are there any other submissions from the public on item B3? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the public hearing. Is the proponent wish to come forward and make a submission? Yeah, please come forward.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. My name is Tajir Outball, and I'm the Managing Director of APCON Group and the agent representing the subject development. I just wanted to come up here and provide our insight and rationale behind this proposal. To start off, APCON Group is a multifamily developer and builder who's had the great opportunity of working in the Township of Langley since 2016. I would say our intention with any development, and notably the proposed development, is being a community-focused builder that takes into account the societal desires both on a macro and micro level. And that being understood, where this property is now being rezoned from a condo to townhouse mix into a full condominium, the proposal. There's, I would say, 3 key reasons, or what I can say pillars, that we believe ultimately supports the community and positively contributes to the overall Latimer neighborhood. The first reason is our demographic and market preference. As we're all aware, the real estate market as a whole has significantly shifted over the past couple of years, and unfortunately has caused challenges for many families to be able to buy and live in communities that they desire, and such as being this one. You know, if you look at the past 4 or 5 years, we first had a market shift during the pandemic where prices started to skyrocket and housing supply is being limited. Fast forward to today, yes, supply is a little bit more accessible and pricing has now settled, but still on the higher range. But families are still on the sidelines because they can't afford to step in the market due to the economic and workforce constraints that are now happening. The trend that we're now seeing as a developer is with buyer preferences is their interest towards condominiums that have functional floor plans, amenities, near major road networks, transit hubs, and also local retail and shopping. So all type of buyers that we're seeing, whether it's a downsizer, first-time home buyer, or young families, they're all aiming more towards the condominium living as a more viable option without compromising their budget, and most importantly, being able to live in a desirable, centrally located community hub. So that was one consideration in mind. The second pillar is, as the second speaker has spoke, is our community need for commercial. One increasingly demand that we are getting on the front lines is that local business owners are requesting for more commercial spaces to overall essentially support more local businesses. We have seen this demand pent up in any of our commercial projects, and specifically reference to APCON's notable project being the Hive in the Willoughby Town Center. In particular, 2 desired businesses are daycare and also day-to-day services such as barbershops, salons, or coffee shops. We believe that proposing a commercial storefront will greatly serve the local neighborhood by alleviating the demand of daycare services and also bringing in locally owned businesses. One item I'd also like to know on a subjective opinion, but on a vision and perspective wise, is that the property block is, as we can see, is kind of positioned within the neighborhood, and especially the commercial component along 201 Street, that'll be facing it. And with the commercial square footage, again, being for around 4,500 to 4,800 square feet, therefore we see the daycare and commercial storefront truly being a more of a village style, small neighborhood, retail, corner-oriented hub. Whereas we have a more of a bigger commercial development, it also attracts a lot of off-site residents, where I feel like more of a niche, smaller type of square footage of a commercial space will more so cater to the local neighborhood there. Lastly, I would say the third reason for our amendment to this application and just in general is the 200 Street transformation. Now, we understand and appreciate that staff and council have diligently are working on introducing their vision for transforming the 200 corridor into a desirable and livable community for families. And especially, of course, the 200 Street 2040 plan. We believe this development proposal is within line of the plan and overall vision that the municipality has. Now, we understand that this hasn't been formally adopted into the NCP as in more as it's a discussion basis, but if we reference back to the previous points of family preferences of condominium living in a centralized hub near major amenity services, transit, and road networks, and still being affordable, I believe the 2040 plan will allow for that reality to come to life. And I strongly believe that this development proposal complements that plan and overall vision. But overall, to summarize, the key points that we'd like residents, staff, and council to have is that this development proposal has been extensively designed with the community input at the forefront. Our ultimate goal is to have this development serve as a positive contribution to the neighborhood that first brings in families who desire to live in this beautiful community. And second is to listen and adapt to the needs of the buyers and market on both of a macro and micro level. Thank you for considering, thank you for listening, considering this proposal.
Yeah, I have some questions from council. Councilor Richter.
Yes, and thank you for your comments. It's clear you've hit on a winner with daycare. Anyway. I'm just wondering, the proposed daycare that's going to go in here, how many children will it be able to accommodate?
On top of my mind, I would not have the exact number, but from my knowledge, the daycare is about approximately 3,100 square feet.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a calculation based upon the square footage, but I think we can circle back from staff, but it should be a good sizable chunk if not mistaken.
Okay. Yeah. And of course, it's clear young families do need daycare. What, in your experience in other developments like that you've done like this, what percentage of the units end up being occupied by young families with small children?
Speaking on experience in the Willoughby community, it's a lot of young professionals or interracial couples or young families, I would say, that are looking to start a family. So I would say it's a good chunk. I would say reference back to our Hive project in the Willoughby Town Center. It was a 2 6-story community with commercial frontage, and unfortunately at that time we missed the opportunity to put daycare in there. But I would say around out of the 240 residents or units that were in there, I would say about a good chunk of 60%, if 65% have asked or have said, "Oh, I wish you guys put in a daycare there." Yeah. But again, that was back in the application was back in 2018, so a little bit of a different market trend. And to be honest, I think we regretted at that point too. I wish we did put it in there as just to serve that community. But residents there I believe there is a daycare situated in the town center alone, so it still alleviates staff stress.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got 245 units going into this complex. Yeah. And if 60% of them have small children, you're confident that the daycare space you've got there will do a lot to address the need?
I would say it's a step in the right direction, and I hope I hope it does address most of the concerns. But given just again, I think I believe there are certain mandates and bylaws that doesn't really let it overpack the daycare as well. So I feel like it should address a good chunk of it, and should be a step in the right direction. Just with the daycare constraints and just in the overall community. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Pratt?
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thanks for being here tonight. It's nice to see the Hive coming along and sort of finishing out that part of the town center, so I appreciate that as well. Just in regards to the commercial space, so the daycare takes up about 3,400 square feet of the overall space, and the remainder is about 1,400 for the second commercial space. Can you talk about what kind of use you can see using that space? For a commercial unit, it's not huge, it's a pretty big spot for a residential unit. But can you talk about a little bit what might go in there? Are we going to see a chain? Are we going to see some actual local owned businesses that go into that spot potentially?
For a 1,400 square foot unit, and this is speaking back on the Hive as well. For a 1,400 square foot unit, usually what happens is either it's catered to a pharmacy, to maybe a salon or a barbershop mixed, or lastly maybe a coffee shop. Typically, a lot of bigger chain-owned businesses, like for example in the Hive, we've had a big out of the 6 units, we had 5 locally owned, and then we had one chain, which was Domino's Pizza, and they weren't. They usually require a bigger unit for their operations, or just how the chain works. So here we see more of a 1,400 square feet being catered to more of like maybe a convenience store, as again coffee shop, any sort of aesthetic type of services, or something that just kind of contributes to the locally owned business. But I personally don't see a big chain coming here because of just how that a storefront is kind of positioned on 201 Street, not on 200, where I feel like big chains also go for that more exposure and whatnot. And speaking on experience from the Hive, but yeah, I would say more locally owned.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, I'm looking at your diagram here, and the one issue always with daycares is pick up and drop off. And I obviously need to redo my prescription because I can't read this good enough. Are there adequate provisions for safe drop-off and pickup for the daycare?
I believe how the engineering scope of work is designed on 201 Street, there is adequate parking or pick up and drop off there that can be designated, but also I would have to refer back to, of course, our consultant team, but I do believe there's also laneway that could be held off to of course cater to that desire, but not necessarily on top of mind. But I know from the fact of engineering requirements and just the road design way, that was taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Can you maybe expand a bit for me on the process you went through to revise the previous approval to locate a new apartment building directly between 2 townhouse developments?
I would say it was a mix of a lot of community outreach, especially having an architect that has worked extensively in that neighborhood, and just in the area in general. And I believe from what we tried doing to mitigate any impact from the neighborhoods, especially the existing townhouse project to the north there and the south, is providing enough landscape buffer, especially during the parkade entry on Lot B. Although this is rezoning, but I believe the landscape plans, which will eventually later come on, or it is here, but there's a good amount of landscape buffer that's provided along the perimeter line, especially with high tree hedges and planting that could mitigate that risk of any disturbance or nuisance from having large structure being proposed there, and just the setbacks of the parkade as well. The second thing is as well that we did during our outreach is that we've haven't had too much of a luck, but have had connected with at least 6 or 8 people just in the neighborhood that have been living there for quite a long time. Especially the townhouse project to the north, 2 neighbors there, and also some of the row homes that are within that neighborhood. And I think it was definitely a concern at first, is of course having a structure there being proposed. But I think they were alleviated to know that, we took in consideration, especially with the landscape buffers, and especially with to make the structure look more offset. And one especially design detail that we did is that if you look on Lot B, is that level 4, 5, and 6 are set back to almost create a facade where it looks like a 3-story building. And level 4, 5, 6 on their balcony plan, the balcony has quite a lot of vegetation and planters, which of course will be more so in detail during the development stage. We took in all those considerations to mitigate the impact of again having a large structure being proposed in between those two townhouse projects, and just taking into the community outreach in that way.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing other questions from council, thank you. I'll close the public hearing for item B3. Does any member of council wish to move consideration of third reading? Not seeing that, I call for a motion to terminate. Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Pratt. All those in favor, opposed, and that's carried. The items B1 and B3 will be considered by council at its next meeting on January 27th. Thank you.